Welcome to Eat Your Backyard, my YouTube channel. Some people already showing up for the live stream. My beautiful chickies. What a super cool ad. So the purpose of this live stream is to solicit names for the new podcast I am getting ready to release, and I can hear my neighbor's lawnmower in the background. I apologize for that in advance if he swings around into his backyard. But I've decided to play around with podcasting. I actually did one interview on my surfing channel a while back, and I couldn't believe how intimidating that was. I did a live stream interview with a friend of mine who basically invented the aerial 360 in surfing, or one of the first ones to ever pull that off, and we talked about his experience, and it was really cool, and it actually motivated me to get my podcast set up, and Jack and I actually played around with it over the weekend and got it working. So now I know how to do a remote podcast. I'm going to use Zoom. Cool thing about Zoom is they well, the uncool thing is I guess they have some security flaws, but I understand what those are. But the cool thing is they give you 45 minutes one-on-one time, so you can do a remote video conference with anybody right there doing that. And so we tested one out, Jack and I did, over the weekend on my surfing channel. That was fun. Go check that out if you're interested. And now I'm getting ready to start a podcast on Eat Your Backyard as well, and I don't know what to call it, but I've written down many ideas. Naming, isn't it funny how naming a thing can actually delay you from doing a thing? For me, that is something to be very aware of and not fall victim to it. Hesitation is the enemy of victory in so many ways. But think twice, but then act. So I reached out to a couple of people that I thought would be really interesting to talk to, and we'll see if they're interested. And if they are, I'll getting those out to you as soon as possible. This time of year, I'll give you a quick update on what's going on in the backyard. This time of year is right at the beginning of a more rainy period. Right, so we're all getting kind of ready for that. We start to get the potential of hurricanes and tropical storms and so on. Looks like we've got one of those headed our way. I'm on the east coast of Florida, so it depends on which way they come, but they're gonna, this one they projected Elsa, tropical storm Elsa, Hurricane Elsa, to come up the kind of the west side of the peninsula, rather close to Key West, and then loop back over the state, which hopefully doesn't bum anybody out. We've been bummed out once or twice by a hurricane or tropical storm. Now I think, like, what happens during a hurricane or tropical storm to this chicken castle? Well, I'll keep you posted. I can tell you this much: it is built in a way that I think a bear would have a hard time getting into it. So I feel pretty good about it. And the chickens seem to know what to do. Okay, Kellen, I'm ready. I can hear you out. Here it comes. Yeah, so got the chicken cage, and now I'm starting to look into expanding the experience range of my rabbits. They're in here. They already have a nice, decent-sized bunny run that we let them run around in, and so on and so forth. Oh, the name is Eat Your Backyard. Just put spaces in between the words. Yeah, it's like the self-titled album. I like that. I was thinking of starting a seventh YouTube channel called Johnny Jingle Maker, and then the joke would be that it's not Johnny the Jingle Maker. Don't ever say that. Yeah, people, when I got the chickens, somebody asked me, Kellen, are you going to eat the chickens? Because and of course, eating chickens is something we do. I'm not afraid to admit. But no, these are pets. But it's not a vastly different subject matter. That's a good point. Really good point. The subject matter of the podcast would legitimately be just to have authentic conversations with interesting people to, selfishly and unselfishly grow the amount of cool people I know and are able to have conversations with that share common interests. And I always try to elevate my game and to meet people that can teach me something, can help me, become, it sounds so cliche, but the better version of me. Oh, how to keep plants alive in the desert. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and I'm sure you're finally tuned into all the adversarial components tuned in against you in the desert. I don't know. I am really considering the Eat Your Backyard podcast. There's something about that I immediately find both funny and interesting. Yeah, cliche, exactly. Yeah, what's the difference between cliche and Confucianism? I'm going to claim very little. Like, you know, what do they say? Alan Watts always said it in a very fatherly English accent, but which changes it for some reason. But the simplest things are the hardest to understand. Yeah, so many examples of that. Like, here's one: don't bite off more than you can chew. Yeah, yeah, don't bite off more than you can chew. Pretty simple, yet pretty complex in implementation. Yeah, the full sun. Oh, the fire of the desert, unlimited solar power. But then, I guess potential monsoon rains as well. So like swinging extremes. It would almost, in some ways, to me, seem like gardening in a habit. In what are those things? What was that thing with Pauly Shore where they went and lived in the dome? Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, and biodome. Yeah, like you would construct a plexiglass dome, but then you would actually find out that you would be cooked because of the desert sun, so it'd have to be tinted. Biodome. Yeah, but that's like, in a way, that's permaculture, in my opinion. Is you're creating a kind of casual biodome in your little world, and then paying attention to what you need to do to keep it alive. Oh, that's cool. Greening the desert permaculture. Yeah, that's fascinating. I am absolutely enamored by even the thought of a desert. Whenever I've been to a desert in my life, I just gaze upon it with wonder. It seems so incredible to me, the concept of a desert. Yeah, it's a real thing. It actually exists. Like, in Death Valley or, kind of that way, you look out over that thing. It's just amazing to me. So yeah, and then here I am in Florida, which is a radically different environment, but not so different actually in the fact that it gets super dry here. Very, very dry here, but then it's torrential pours every day. So the cycle, especially in the summer, is pretty radical. One thing I'm thinking about right now is this worm farm, and the mosquitoes back here have all of a sudden increased. I can see them flying around this worm farm. Ugh, it's brutal. And I know that's because there's standing water down on the bottom here. I've got to do something about that. Got to do something about that. Can I have the worm farm, mosquito farm as well? But the mosquitoes will get in any standing water, of course. Look at this thing. Now there's a Lowe's down the street from where I live. I go there every Friday whenever I can remember to. Usually bike down there in the morning. I'm up at like 5:30 every day anyhow, sometimes earlier, just naturally. I just wake up, so I figure I already got the shot of hormone rush to be awake, and so just get awake and get out there. So bike around. Why do I do that on Friday? Well, because that's when they typically get their fruit tree shipment. And so even at a Lowe's or a Walmart or whatever, chain store, you can find cool plants, I always think. And this is kind of related to what we were already talking about in the beginning of this stream, which is adapting to your environments. And this tree is a soursop tree. Aren't those leaves beautiful? Check that out. I love the glossy, look of those leaves. When I see that, though, I automatically start to worry when it looks a little more tender like this on the shoots. Is it going to be able to survive the saltiness of my irrigation? And so I have sprinklers here and here and here, and they spray. And this is kind of in a sheltered spot from the sprinklers, so it might do all right. But I'm wondering if it's tender. I've never grown these in my yard before. I know people who have them. But soursop, they also call it the custard apple, and it's supposed to be delicious. Everybody I know who's tried one loves them, and I got 2 of those. And to manage the effect, because I've never grown them, I put them in 2 intentionally different spots as a little experiment. So I bought 1, 2, and I got them at that Lowe's for like $13 a piece, which is incredibly cheap in my opinion for a tree of this healthiness and size, fruit tree. And since I know the quality of the fruit's so good, I wanted to plant 2 just so I have a lot of them coming in. Yeah, thanks, Kellen. It's fun having you on. Appreciate it. Hope to see you back. Yeah, so anyway, the soursops, custard apple, 2 of them. One here, which is in a more shaded environment. This is the southern exposure. The sun comes this way. But right now, I mean, if you look up here, it's almost directly overhead. We're so close, far down on Earth. But nonetheless, this gets shaded, but it will receive half-day sun. But it's in a much more shady understory kind of spot here. It's sheltered from the salt spray a little bit more here. So that's the environment I put this one into. And then this one, isn't that healthy looking? This one I placed out into a place where it definitely gets hit by a sprinkler right there, and one behind me. So it's in full sun. So we've got a lot of variables at play here, but I'll keep you updated on how it does. The soursop is a cool tree because it grows from seed. You can grow fruit tree from the seeds of the fruit, which is not always the case. This is a cool picture of what the fruit looks like. It's very similar to a jackfruit. Do you know what a jackfruit looks like? It's kind of similar to that, but much smaller. And it has those black seeds. And those black seeds you can plant. I'm going to be on the lookout in the grocery store for a soursop. If you ever see one, grab it. I did have a recent unsuccessful attempt at growing dragon fruit from a beautiful dragon fruit I got at the store. Dried the seeds, but had no success. This area of my yard, this southern area, if you look at videos on the channel, I've been redoing this over the years. I made, well, let's say one of the core tenets of permaculture, which is to use edge spaces. And by the way, that's kind of the level of permaculture that I exist at, which is at the principle level, understanding those and implementing them. Right, and I think that's a cool way to approach it. By the way, check out my video, The 12 Principles, if you want to see how I apply these to my yard in a lot of cases. But this is an edge space, utilize edge space principle right here. I had a spot in my yard which was dry, unused, whatever. I've revitalized it, and now it is alive and producing bounty. And that was over the course of about a year, year and a half. Most of these things I grew from seeds or from cuttings. So from that perspective too, the principle of gaining a yield, the permacultural, tongue-twisted, permaculture principle of gaining a yield is being realized. I'm gaining a yield of other plants to extend the yield of having more plants. So I'm getting yield in many ways. Look at that sugarcane. That's a big boy. I've got to cut that. I'm going to cut that and make that another sugarcane grove. Hey, Camel. How's it going? Good to see you on. Yeah, I saw that video of that you had on Folly Beach. Made me want to take a drive to Folly Beach, to be honest. Sorry, the camera's shaking a little bit. I keep scratching mosquito bites. I've got to absolutely get this mosquito situation under control. Yep, sure is nice. My pigeon peas now have continued to grow. I ended up topping this one off. It's got a rather thick trunk to it, which I'm stoked about. And I think I upset these particular pigeon peas by giving them a lot of bunny manure. I mean, there was one day that it rained and water got in the bunny manure catching trays, and it was like, ugh. I poured most of it out right in here, and both of these started to turn yellow. I think I just overdid. Like, this pigeon pea does not need fertilizer. People are not applying fertilizer to pigeon peas typically, I think, because when I apply fertilizer to it, it seems to not really like it. But it'll come back, I'm sure, when that nutrient will just be digested. But the pigeon pea is suffering from fertilization, I believe, right there. And I'll give you an example. By the way, the pigeon pea is like that pioneer plant in permaculture. It's one of these things that you could buy a pack of pigeon peas off of Amazon for whatever, $5, and then your seeds, and you're into pigeon peas. And anybody that has pigeon peas, they say if you have pigeon peas, you'll never not have pigeon peas. So here are more pigeon peas. Now these have been unfertilized, mostly. Actually, I'm not being completely honest there. They've been fertilized with some bunny turds. I'm sure everything here has had some fertilizer dumped on it, and the chickens have been doing their thing back here. But so it's doing great. And dark green leaves comparison to the other one that I showed you. This one also. But this one got hit by caterpillars. I was surprised, well, it's also got some ants mining some of those little white bugs. We've been finding the caterpillars that are on here and feeding them to the chickens, who are very grateful. Come here, little chickies. Hello, little chickies. Look at how sweet these chickens are. Hey. Loving having chickens. We take them out in the yard in smaller groups or one or two at a time and let them free range around, because it's easier to kind of control their impact, because as soon as they get out, they will just absolutely chow down on anything that they see, which is great unless it's the thing you've been growing, and then it's just been, here we go, look at this. Like for instance, grass, St. Augustine grass. Yep, they're gonna eat that up. Cool thing about chickens is you can feed them everything you have in terms of vegetable scraps. They love it. It's good for them. You know, you're cutting up cucumbers, peppers, or whatever. All that scrap can just be thrown into them, and they are gonna make good use. This is a fun little area of my yard, kind of like the back region, the corner region that we've kept wild. The chickens love it back here. They actually roost on that Barbados cherry, which is really cool. We've got Barbados cherries, brown turkey figs, also Suriname cherries, all happening back there. This year we have sea grapes that have bloomed. Let's see, there we go. So we'll have sea grapes pretty soon. Can't wait to eat those. I love sea grapes. A tree formed this from a seed I grew from years ago. Do a quick check on the what you got growing on table. It's funny that I created a series called that, and then I realized afterwards that that name has been used by other people on YouTube. Oops. Look at this. Tamarind tree. Grown from seed. Finally achieved it. Carambola tree. Hawaiian papaya. All doing quite well. Even got some robelinis growing from seeds. Looks like grass. There's a moringa tree. It's a Chinese tallow tree, which are interesting. These are invasive, but they can be fun to grow in pots. They're deciduous tree. I like them. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this live stream. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like the video. That always helps me know. Also, every Wednesday we're going to be releasing a new video, so I've got those scheduled out for the next month, and I'll just keep adding them on Wednesdays. We are typically doing a live stream every Sunday morning, and I'm going to update the schedule on the About tab of the channel, so if you're interested in jumping on to live streams, it's always more fun when people are on and we have a chat like we did today. I enjoyed that very much. Okay, thanks for watching. Eat your backyard. Don't be a stranger. Go ahead and make your world into a bountiful producer of joy.